You've never done this class because I wrote this class. You're getting something completely new today. Yes, yeah. Well, again, I'm Carrie. My interesting fact is that I might be the girliest girl alive, right? I love to get my nails done. I love makeup. I love hair. I love all of those things. But I love to tent camp. I like to go out and sleep in the fresh air and sleep on the ground with a tent and I love it. So people can't believe that, but that's something unique that makes me who I am, right? So we're going to talk a little bit about that as we go on. So we're going to start the official part of our training. And I titled this Memory Care, It's Not About the Disease. All right? How many times when you guys get an assignment, right, do they start with this resident or this client has dementia, right? And we automatically think, all right, we got to take care of the dementia patient, right? We're not taking care of dementia. We're taking care of people. And I think so often we get caught up in this person has dementia and that's how we have to manage them. But it's above that. So we're going to dive in. Let's see if I can figure out how to do this. All right. So today's objectives, we're going to understand first the silver tsunami, right? The silver tsunami is what we're experiencing right now. We're going to talk about quality of life through understanding dementia, understanding what dementia is. We're going to talk about dignity through communication. We're going to talk about self-worth through behavior management, right? And we're going to talk about any questions that you have. And the interesting thing is that if you look, you see the parts that say dementia and behavior management, because that's what we think we're going to go in to do, right? We're going in, we're clinicians, that's what we're going to do. But in reality, we should be working about quality of life, dignity, and self-worth. That's what we should be putting forward with our efforts. So the silver tsunami is among us, and the diagnosis of dementia continues to grow every single year. Statistical information: more than 5.8 million Americans currently are affected by dementia. 3.2 million of them are women. You think they need us? I think so. Someone develops Alzheimer's disease every 65 seconds in the United States. That means on average, every 65 seconds, a doctor gives a diagnosis of dementia. It's pretty alarming, isn't it? 1 in 3 people, seniors will die with a diagnosis of Alzheimer's disease or another form of dementia. Doesn't mean they die from it. It means they die with a diagnosis of it. $290 million are spent annually on dementia care, research, and education. And globally, the numbers are expected to triple by 2050. You think we're going to have a job for a minute? I think so, right? What is dementia? So the actual diagnosis definition is the loss of mental functioning that causes specific deficits in memory, language, learning ability, judgment, and orientation. There are specific diseases that cause dementia. Among them is Alzheimer's disease, which accounts for 2/3 of all dementia cases. You're pretty familiar with dementia, right? You're pretty familiar with what it is and what it does. Did you know that there's reversible dementias? Yeah, there is. So dementia really is a class of signs and symptoms, right? So reversible, or what they call pseudo-dementias, could be drug reactions, emotional disorders, could be schizophrenia, it could be panic disorder, it could be depression. All of those things mask those signs and symptoms of dementia. Metabolic or endocrine disorders, so like thyroid conditions, they can exhibit cognitive impairment. So of course, if you don't check that out, the doctor could say you have dementia. But if you don't check everything else out first, you really can't give that effective diagnosis. Nutritional deficits, electrolyte imbalance. We know when people are dehydrated, what happens? They become more confused and disoriented. Sometimes they have agitated, their behaviors change. Infections or tumors, UTIs, hello, we all know about UTIs, right? Pneumonias, those kinds of things, all can create some cognitive impairment. And then the actual lack of oxygen. Somebody who has CHF or has another hypoxic type disorder, those can also exhibit symptoms of dementia. So when we have a person that we're dealing with, we're working with, and the family says, oh, she's never been like this before, and this is all of a sudden. So when they call in to SmithLife Homecare and they say, we need a caregiver because my mom now has dementia. Well, how long she had dementia? 4 days. She hasn't had dementia for 4 days. What we need to be telling them is, if this is an acute onset, if this is something that just happened and we're seeing these sudden changes, we should be telling them to get checked out by the doctor first, right? We don't just say they have dementia. Dementia occurs over a period of time. It's not an overnight disease. And then you have your non-reversibles. These are the ones that we all know about. Lewy body, Parkinsonian dementia, frontotemporal dementia, Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease, vascular dementia, and of course, Alzheimer's disease. So all of those are the things that we most common, right? In my CDP class, if anybody's ever interested in taking that class, I certainly do welcome any of you to take it. It's a great 3 letters that you can put after your name in addition to CNA or GNA. So it just gives you more validity in what you do and how you do it. But we talk a little bit more about those non-reversible dementias. So now we're going to get into the nitty-gritty of the stuff. Dignity through communication. Again, we are not caring for the disease. We're caring for the person with the disease. I don't know a whole lot about SmithLife, but what I do assume is that when somebody calls in, they say, I need to, home care, and we go out and we do an assessment on that patient. Right? Right. An assessment is a clinical term. What we have to refocus ourselves on is not doing clinical assessments all the time. There is valid information that come from that. What we do to really adequately take care of a person is we have to interview them. We interview them, we interview their family, we interview their friends, we interview them. Interviewing is when you walk into a room and you really want to get to know somebody to find out if they're a good fit for you, for your organization, right? Or a good fit for what you are able to do with them. That's an interview. Ask personal questions. Don't ask, can they go to the bathroom by themselves? Because we know that we're already able to do that for them. We don't need to know that part. We need to know, what do they like? Who is important to them? How do they like to spend their day? When we think we know enough, we got to ask more questions. Because today, when we went around this room, right, I didn't do an assessment on any of you. I was interviewing you. I was asking you, what's important to you? What makes you who you are? Doesn't matter if you have dementia or not, but if I'm having a conversation with you, right, and let me go with Carly, and I know you have dementia, right? I know that you're going to need my assistance. That's not the question. But how am I going to begin a conversation with you? How am I going to begin having trust, right? I'm going to talk to you about horses. I'm going to ask you, have you ever ridden a horse? I'm going to ask you, did you train horses? Did you ever own a horse? I'm going to talk to you about something that is going to allow you to open up your personal life with me and develop a trust. We take care of people in their most intimate moments. Okay, I'm sorry. If I walk into a bathroom, I don't want somebody following me, right? That's a pretty intimate moment. And we have to get to know somebody enough to allow them to want us to be a part of that, right? To trust that we know what we're doing and we can care for them. So that starts with having a conversation about something that is completely unrelated to what we're there for. So when you think you know everything, ask more questions. Dig deeper all the time. Keep talking. You're always going to find something out about somebody. What did they call you, mommy? Mommy. Okay, all right. I know about her that she is a nurturing person, right? So if I'm working with her in a setting where I'm trying to get her to do something that I need her to do, take a shower, go to the bathroom, change her clothes, whatever, I'm going to use the knowledge that I have of her being a nurturing person, and I'm going to use that to my benefit. I want her to nurture me, right? That's who she is, right? I want her to want to nurture me. So how am I going to present that? I might present that in a way of, can you please help me do this? I really could use your help, because that's going to trigger her, because that's what somebody's done with her for her whole life, right? That's going to trigger her to say, oh, yes, I want to help you. Yes, my dear, let me help you. And she's going to go and she's going to do exactly what you want her to do. But the minute you tell her you need to go in and take a bath, she's probably going to fight you, because she's the nurturer. She's not the person who needs to be nurtured. Right? So sometimes you got to turn the tables. Use the information that you know to be able to get what you want. So what does the interview do for us? It allows for dignity, first of all. People are not defined by their disease. Do I look like I have a chronic disease? Okay. What do you see when you look at me? What do you see? A person. I'm young, right? I walked in here on my own accord. I didn't need any assistance, right? All of those things. I have a very chronic disease that does not define who I am. Do I need assistance with things? I absolutely do. But looking at me, you can't tell that. And it's the same with somebody with dementia. So you get to know me, and you get to know that I'm a vibrant person. I'm passionate about what I do. And I love to camp, and I love my kids. You get to know. Everything else about what I need help with is later on in our conversations, but you don't need to know that right from the top. Right? So it's important to realize that we look at people for who they are, not what disease they have. Because a doctor could look at my file and say, she's got this and this and this and this and this, and her life's pretty crappy, right? But no, not me. I have a great life. I have an amazing life. I have 3 beautiful kids, and I do what I love, and all of these things. Doesn't make, it's not the same as it does on paper. It removes the defense. In most cases, people don't become defensive when they're talking about their lives to a friend, right? Just as I said with you, when I turn the tables and I use your abilities and your nurturing abilities, and I use the fact that you love horses, and that's something that makes you who you are. When I use that information, people are less defensive. They're not thinking that you're going to come in there and just push them around and tell them what to do. How many times do we hear people say, I'm not moving to assisted living because I don't want somebody to tell me what to do. I don't want somebody to come in my house and take care of me because I don't want them to tell me what to do. That's not what we're here to do. We're here to be your friend and support you. So we take away the defense. And then it's information gathering, if nothing else. The more information you have, the more likely you are to be able to begin a trust. People trust people who they're friends with, right? You don't go out in the community and share your life story with a stranger on the street. I hope you don't. But you do with your friends, and that's who you begin to trust. All right, dignity through communication. Again, we're not caring for the disease, we're caring for the human. Listen, this is the second part of this. It's not enough for us to just get the information, but we have to truly listen to the information that's being given to us. What words are they saying? Okay, because sometimes their words are important. What is their body language? Are they sitting there with their arms crossed? Are they got a cane that they're going to hit you in the head with it? What is their body language? What is that telling you? What emotion is being conveyed in what they're saying to you? And then what is your body language? If you're in there and sitting there, you know, I need you to take a shower, and we're going to do it now, or we're going to do it later. One of the two, you pick, right? That's not how we're going to do this, right? Your body language has to be open and engaged and welcoming, and nurturing, right? If you walk into a room and you are already on the defense, they're going to be on the defense. Taking into consideration, would you say listening is done with your ears? Sometimes. But it's, you listen with your eyes. You listen with your heart, right? What are they trying to convey to you? Again, allows for dignity. How do you think that people are feeling when they're talking to their family and friends rather than asking them questions? It removes the defense. We should never assume that we know someone by reading about them. Seek to understand. Goes back to my chronic disease myself, right? Doctor looks at my stuff on paper and they're like, oh, this girl's a mess, right? But if you were to look at me and know me, nothing stands in my way. Nothing's going to get in my way. I'm passionate, I'm happy, I'm vibrant, I do all those things, right? On paper, I don't look so great. But if you meet me, I'm a completely different person. And again, it's information gathering. When you take a genuine interest in what the person is saying, the natural process of trust is initiated. When we walk into, let's just say, walk into a restaurant or a bar or somewhere, and we start talking to somebody, we're talking to somebody to get to know them, right? We're not talking to them because we need to do something for them. We're talking to them because we want to get to know them. We're genuinely interested. And again, that begins that trust. So why do we not do the same thing when we're walking into a resident or a client's space, right? It's no different. But yet, because it's on the clock, it's on our job, and because it says we have a name tag on that says I'm a caregiver, we automatically look at it in a different way, and we shouldn't. We should be looking at it the same way we do in our own personal life, and walk in and have a conversation with somebody about what do they like and what they don't like, and who's important to them, and all of those things, right? Those are the things that we want to know. Tips for communicating. So avoid empty speech. So it's important that we articulate exactly what it is that we want when we want it, right? Don't say, here, put this over there. This? Over there? I mean, it's pretty empty, right? I don't know what that means. Put this over there. Or put the sting in that. I don't know what that means. Be articulate about what you want. Understand aphasia and paraphrasia. Some people are going to confuse their words. Some people are going to have word salad. Anybody know what word salad is? Jumbling up of words. It could mean absolutely nothing. You might get one or two words out of that word salad that is trying to articulate what they want, right? So it is important that we listen to the words, but that's not what we ultimately need to be listening to. And be understanding that they're unable to articulate their thoughts. They may be frustrated. They may want to say what they want to say, but they don't know how to get it out. And then they become agitated and frustrated, and they might throw something. And then, of course, that becomes a behavior. And they're like, oh, she's got behaviors. I can't be here. She's got behaviors. All it is she's trying to get the words out. She just doesn't know what to say and how to do it. Validation. I know we've all learned about validation, but live in their truth. If they want to get home to get their daughter off the school bus, okay, well, what school bus does she ride? Is she in elementary school? Okay, what are we going to do when we get off the school bus? Oh, great. How old is she? Oh, are you cooking dinner? What are we making for dinner tonight? And you are then turning the table, and you're going to have a completely different conversation with her, and she doesn't even know that you're redirecting her. Because you're having that conversation, you're actively engaging, you're information gathering, you're communicating, and yet you're still redirecting the behavior. Avoid memory questions. We already know they don't know what they had for lunch, so why are we going to ask the question? That is just going to create more frustration. If I said to you 3 hours after lunch. Well, what did you have for lunch today, Mom? She probably isn't going to be able to tell you. We already know that. So instead, we can say, would you like something to eat, Mom? Yes, I'd love to have something to eat. If she doesn't want something to eat, great. If she does, you're going to know that she wants something to eat, but it's irrelevant if she ate lunch 3 hours ago. And of course, we never argue. They no longer have the ability to reason. You can't reason with somebody who can't be reasonable. It's like a drunk person, right? Have you ever tried to reason with a drunk person? No. It's not fun. No, because they don't have the ability. The alcohol has inhibited their ability to reason. Dementia has inhibited their ability to reason. You're not going to reason with them. It's not going to work. So just don't try. If they're trying to fight up against you, the more you push up against them, the more they're going to push up against you. And then that's when your agitated behaviors come. That's when your aggressive behaviors come. That's when they completely, become catastrophic in their behaviors.
Carrie,
yes.
I have a question.
Sure.
So what about if we ask about the family, how many kids or grandkids, is that okay?
Yeah, what I would say more is, oh, I see that you have grandchildren. I love, you could say how many grandchildren. They're probably not going to be able to answer you. But you might say, do you have any pictures? I'd love to see a picture. Like, you can engage them in that way. Or you can just say, if you already know they have grandchildren or children, you can say, oh, I talked to Zach yesterday. He was so excited that I was here to see you today. She may not realize, who Zach is. She may or may not. But it's conversation about her own personal life. I would not specifically ask memory questions, like how many do you have? And again, the thing is every bit of dementia is very different. So different dementias, and again, this is more in our CDP class, but different dementias exhibit different behaviors. So like with Alzheimer's disease, your short-term memory is gone, right? So that is not a great indication of a question that you would ask. However, if you're dealing with somebody with, let's just say, Lewy body, their short-term dementia or their short-term memory is not necessarily as impaired as somebody with Alzheimer's disease. Their signs and symptoms are more of, Lewy body, aggressive activity and being robust and just powering through. It's not necessarily their short-term memory. So, it's very individualized in what questions you can always, kind of skirt the water a little bit and figure out what they are able to say to you, what they are able to articulate. But the minute you realize that they are short-term memory, I would never ask those memory questions. That's a good question. Validation, we talked about every human interaction involves an exchange of information wrapped up in emotions. Think about a robot, okay? Without emotions, our day-to-day interactions would be nothing more than a cold exchange of information. So you call up the doctor's office on the phone, and they say, welcome to Potomac Valley Orthopedic Care. This is the automated response. If you need assistance with an appointment, call 1, and you know how it goes. You get no emotion from that, do you? You get information, period, the end. And you probably get irritated because it's nobody that's able to exchange a dialogue with you. It's irritating. It would be no different in that case because validation has emotion to it. You want somebody that's going to be able to exchange that with you and be a part of that conversation, be a part of that dialogue with you so that you're able to, again, validate what they're feeling. When they are talking about, a robot type interaction, that's going to be very frustrating for them. All right, emotional listening. We talked about listening with their hearts, right? You have 2 clients, both have word salad, right? One client is crying, they're frantic, they're rummaging, The other client is smiling and sitting there and she's content. And they say the exact same things with word salad, right? Do you know what they're saying? Well, you do. You do. You can ultimately distinguish at least something about what's going on, right? The person that's smiling and content, you know, is not in a place of angst and distress, right? But the person who is crying, frantic, and rummaging, she said the exact same thing as the person who was content, but we know that something's wrong, right? Same words were said. So what's that tell us? It tells us that the words that they say are not always important, right? I had a family once want to move into Olney, and she said, I don't know if we're going to be able to move mom into Olney. It was a Vietnamese family, and she said she thought that they were going to have to send mom back to Vietnam because she had reverted back to her native language. I said, you don't need to move them anywhere. We don't always use words here. When somebody has dementia, they often lose their ability to have those conversations. So whether she speaks Vietnamese, English, German, or doesn't speak at all, we still have the ability to care for this person. Do we need a little bit more information? Of course we do. Is it going to be a different type of relationship that we have with this person? Of course it is. It's going to have to be more individualized and personal. But the reality of it is we don't need her words to be able to take care of her appropriately, right? Because most times people with dementia either revert back to their native language or they lose their language ability, their expressive language ability altogether. Remember that when a person with dementia is exhibiting a behavior or has an emotional response, it is their attempt to communicate something. It is imperative that we listen with our ears to what they're saying, listen with our eyes to see what their gestures are, listen with their heart to hear their emotions and be empathetic to what they're trying to express in their emotional state, and validate where they are, meet them where they are, understand they are in crisis at that very moment, or they're in a great state, and use those emotions to be able to validate and meet them where they are in their day. All right, self-worth through behavior management. Every action has a meaning. Every tear, every yell, every accusation, every aggressive intent, and every situation of rummage and hoarding has a meaning. It's up to determine that meaning, validate its place, and provide supportive interventions to those we work with. So if we have a resident or a client that is, walking around and just, let's just say she's have you ever seen them just doing something like this, right? Have you ever seen that? They're not saying anything, but they are communicating with us. They're communicating that they're trying to do something. It might be an old job. It might be that they're doing house chores. It could be anything. It could be things that have been in their life before. I worked in a nursing facility one time that we had this guy who was constantly exit seeking. And I told the story in my CDP class. Constantly exit seeking. And he was always telling us he had to get out and check the truck. Well, in our dig deeper, we found out he was a truck driver. So we gave him a set of keys to nothing, but he gave him a set of keys. His family gave us that information. And so when he would try to exit seek, when he was going to the door and he was saying, I got to get to my truck, we said, oh, no, Joe, your keys are in your pocket. Sure enough, keys were right there. He was fine. He turned around and walked away. You might have to do it 45 times in a day, but he wasn't then exit seeking. He wasn't trying to push through. He wasn't getting catastrophic with his behaviors and his actions, because we had already satisfied what he was trying to do. His communication to us was, I've got to get to my truck. I got to get to my truck. I got to get to my truck. No, your keys are right here. The truck's fine. Oh, okay. Now, he didn't remember that we did that 45 minutes later, but we were still able to redirect that behavior. No, your keys are in your pocket. Remember, Joe? Oh, yeah, I got it. They're right here. Yep. Mm-hmm. Right? So it's information gathering, looking at the behavior and figuring out what are they trying to tell us. Digging in for the family information. This is something that they constantly are doing. Do you have any idea why this might be happening? Oh, well, you know what? She used to be a housekeeper and she is washing the walls. Okay, well then give her a paper towel or a cloth. Let her wash the wall. It's not going to hurt her. Let her do what she's doing. She's communicating a need that she needs to be busy. She wants to do something, right? Her behavior is her language. So just like I said, we don't always understand the Vietnamese language. We don't need to. We just have to learn their new language. What is the new language? And it's not easy. It's never going to be the same for each person. And it might not be the same for the same person 2 days in a row. That's the thing about dementia. It's never going to be the same. And we're going to have to try different things every single day and be creative with what we come up with. And what works, write it down so that the next person doesn't have to come up with it on their own, right? It's important that we document what things are working. Who in here understands what a service plan is, right? We write these things in a service plan because that helps to communicate to future providers what we've already figured out. We have a resident at Olney that does not wear shoes. She refuses to put a pair of shoes on her feet. And we put in her service plan that the resident refuses to wear shoes. Well, number one, that protects us from the state. When the state comes in and says, why is this person not wearing shoes in your building? Because that's a resident right and she refuses to put on shoes. Number one, correct. It's documented that that's the way it is. Two, that's a dignity thing. If she doesn't want to put shoes on, she doesn't have to put shoes on. We don't know why that is. We don't know if that was just the way she was when she was home with her children growing up and just walked around barefoot all day. I mean, I think that's a great way of living myself. You know, we don't know what that previous life looks like, but what we do know is that she is perfectly content without her shoes on. Period. Why do we have to do any more? We don't. Allow what is working to work. Now, if at some point it becomes dangerous for her, then yeah, do we have to come up with something else? We may have to come up with something else. But right now, in the moment, this works. Okay? Delusions versus hallucinations. All right? Did you know there's a difference? I hope so. So a delusion is a false idea or misinterpretation of a situation. I heard this one before. My daughter stole my vacuum cleaner. Your daughter didn't steal your vacuum cleaner. But that's her delusion. That's a false idea that is in her head, right? A hallucination is a false perception. It could be something you hear, you see, you smell, you taste, right? That is the difference. The delusion is an idea. The hallucination is an actual sense that they are sensing that something is not the way it is. Interventions for behavior management. This is important. This is kind of the nitty-gritty of what we do every day, right? This is the things that we should be doing every day. We always want to involve our medical team. Sometimes medications and medical conditions can drive behaviors. Sometimes they'll try a new medication, right? And you're going to get the opposite effect. And it's undesirable effects, right? We got to communicate those things. But then on the flip side, if they try a new medication and it's working, we need to make sure that they know it's working, right? Document that it's working. Document what is being effective, for whatever you're trying to manage. Communication, of course, we talked about this before, developing trust between the person and the caregiver. When they trust us, they're more than likely to be able to attempt to converse with us, and their behaviors are not necessarily going to be catastrophic. Reassure and redirect. Be on their side. Let me help you figure that out. You know what? I'm going to take care of that for you. And you might not know how to take care of it for them, but as long as you say, I'm going to take care of that for you, and you have that trust because you've already become their friend, they're going to believe you that you're going to take care of them. They may ask how you're going to take care of it. How are you going to take care of that for me? You know what? I'm going to go right to the top. I'm going to do right from the top and get this answered for you. Oh, okay, I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. We just validated. We didn't say, no, you don't have a problem. We just said, I'm going to take care of it for you, right? We are on their side. If you were to say to them, you don't have a problem. Oh, no, that's not true. That's not true. No, there's nobody in your room. Nobody was in your room. The minute you tell them that, guess what? Their reasoning skills are no longer there. So they're going to get agitated. And yes, there was somebody in there, and I don't want them in my room. Okay, all you got to do is say, I'll take care of it for you. Validate that whether it's true or not, you're going to take care of it for them. Non-judgmental. No one ever wants to hear they're crazy, right? Nobody wants to be told that what they're seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, believing is false. Nobody wants to hear that. That's where self-worth comes in. When you continually try to push up against them, saying, no, that's not happening. No, that didn't happen. No, you're not going to go there. You're not going to do that. You're chipping away at that self-esteem, because then they're believing that there is something wrong with them. And validate, of course. Again, that's the word of the day. Validation. Meet them where they are. Help them believe that you are the one that's going to help them, because that's their ability to reason in that way. People with dementia gradually lose their ability to understand the world as others see it. Whether it's chemically or anatomically, the changes affect how the brain works and process information. There's no way to correct it. It often manifests itself as warped perceptions that they cannot distinguish from true reality. Again, it is trying to reason with somebody who isn't able to reason. And that's never going to go away. They're not going to wake up the next day and it's going to be better. It's not going to happen. Okay, so in summary, it's about the person, not the disease, right? So we talked about the quality of life through understanding dementia. When we understand what dementia is, we understand our role in caring for those with the diagnosis. Dignity through communication. It's not enough to simply listen with our ears. We have to listen with every sense that we have, and truly understand, and understand to the point where we can actually act on that understanding. And then self-worth through behavior management. Behaviors are a means of communication. We have to remember that. When somebody's going to hit you, it's because they're scared. When somebody gets up and exit seeks in the middle of the night and wanders out of their apartment, it's because they're scared. It might be because they're alone, because they don't know where everybody else, and they wake up and it's dark and there's nobody here and I got to get out of here, right? It's not that they're just saying, I'm going to teach them, I'm going to get out that door. It's not like that. They're trying to communicate something. People with dementia speak a different language, but this time through actions and emotions versus words. It's our job to learn that language, and that language may change every single day. And that's what makes this job so challenging and so invigorating at the same time. You have the ability to make a difference in every single person's life that you work with, especially with those with dementia. And they're not going to remember what you say, but they are going to remember how you feel, how you make them feel. You know when you've heard when certain caregivers will go in and take care of somebody, and it's just not a good match, right? You just know that there's certain caregivers that are just not a good match for that person. It might not be anything that they in particularly do, but it might be what they don't do, right? And because you've given that feeling of angst, or they have that feeling of angst or uncertainty or fear, that automatically is going to stick. They may not keep anything else, retain anything else, but that feeling is what they are going to retain. All right? All right. Thank you for participating.